It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of April 17th, 1998. You might notice that I'm kind of a little tired today. Well, of course, this weekend that I'm recording this, the Thursday actually I'm recording this, is the day before Steel City Con. And we spent the whole day today getting everything together, and there's going to be some videos coming up over the next couple of days of me at the con, but we had a lot of stuff to bring into there. We had to set everything up. It took about 6 hours pretty much, so I'm pretty exhausted, and honestly I didn't even feel like really wanting to do this because I was so tired, but I have a job to do here. I said I was going to give you guys this, at least for this day today, and then I do the Steel City Con, and then I'll be back at it on Monday, but we have 10 movies to look at here, and unlike last week, there was footage of each movie, so we have to talk about each one of them, so I'm promising you right now, this is not going to be my best work right here, but I'm going to do the best that I can with the stuff that we have here. So we have some notable movies to talk about, though. So let's get right to it. We have a lot of things to get to. I've already wasted too much of your time. Let's just jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd in the romantic dramedy The Object of My Affection.
Nina thought she found the perfect roommate.
Are you sleeping with her? Vince, I'm gay.
You are?
But her idea of perfect
I just adore you.
isn't everybody else's.
I'm gonna fix you up.
I don't want to be fixed up.
You can get close to a woman without sleeping with her.
Help!
Aren't men just such jerks?
Jennifer Aniston,
I want you to be with me.
Paul Rudd,
I don't want to lose you.
the object of my affection.
So Jennifer Aniston and Paul Rudd are the couple in this, except the story is that you have this pregnant New York social worker who develops romantic feelings for her gay new friend. The pregnant woman is Aniston, of course the gay friend is Paul Rudd, and decides to raise her child with him and the complications that ensue. And you can definitely see where this movie could go off the wagon pretty quickly, but for the most part, it plays it pretty okay, but it doesn't really do anything that makes it anything special or unique whatsoever. It's a movie that's just kind of there, and considering some of the other movies that Aniston has done, stuff like Picture Perfect, and there was another one that she did that I can't remember right off the top of my head. Let me see if I can find it here. Maybe that was it. Maybe because Picture Perfect was her first starring vehicle. She was in She's the One, which was which was actually a really good movie. And The Object of My Affection is one that it's kind of there. It has some good ideas, but it just doesn't have the right execution to go with it. Like, I like the ideas that they're setting up here. There are some pretty good effective scenes in here, and you do buy into the chemistry between Aniston and Rudd, despite the obvious reasons why they can't get together, because one of them is gay and the other is straight. I mean, as far as the rest of the movie itself goes, it's pretty mediocre. I mean, the movie is trying its best to really pull it together, but it just can't really take that big step that it needs to really make it a unique experience or something different from the other movies that are very similar to this. But I appreciate the effort that they tried to pull in there. I just wish they would have gone all the way through with it, but unfortunately they don't. And the film kind of ends up just being pretty mediocre, to say the least. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you on that one there. So, not a good movie, but certainly not a bad movie per se. It definitely could have been a whole lot better considering where they were going in the direction that they had. But as it is, it's a mediocre film. It's okay, but it's not something you'd want to watch over and over again. I certainly don't want to watch it over and over again. So that's The Object of My Affection. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, the second feature family film from Dreamworks, Paulie.
I'm Paulie.
The theatrical hit movie Paulie is coming to video. Join this amazing parent
You can talk. Don't they talk? I say taco, they say taco.
on his incredible journey.
Can you tell me where I am?
Full of fun
Say, do you realize we're both naked?
and adventure.
Woohoo! See ya.
It's the most enchanting family film since Babe. Paulie, in stores September 29th.
This is one that a lot of people really forgot about. I mean, I saw this movie in theaters when I was little, and I remember kind of enjoying it, but I haven't gone back to see it in a long time. I didn't watch it again until about maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago. You basically have a story here of Jay Moore playing a wisecracking, disobedient, talking parrot named Paulie, who's been locked in a cage in a basement, and he shares his adventurous stories to his janitor, played by Tony Shalhoub. You also have Cheech Marin, Jenna Rollins. Like I said, Jay Moore plays the title character as well as an on-screen supporting role. and he has a lot of dialogue in the movie. And Jay Moore can be very funny, and he's pretty good in the role of Parrot here. And I do remember, if watching it again, I do think I really do like this film. I think it actually has held up a little bit more than I thought it was going to. The movie overall is a solidly made film. It's not a classic movie by any means necessary, but it has a lot of good performances in here. Cheech Marin's really good in here. You have Haley Eisenberg, the Pepsi girl from the 90s, playing the younger version of Marie, and then you have Trini Alvarado from The Frighteners as the adult version. As I mentioned, Jenna Rollins is in here. This is Buddy Hackett's last film role. Bruce Davidson's playing this research scientist. Bill Cobbs is in the film as well. The parrot effects actually work pretty well here, and I do like that the movie is not what you think the trailer is going to be, but like the trailer makes it think like it's going to be like a typical generic family film where you have to have the wisecracking jokes, and let's have the kind of the racial stereotype, kind of a little bit of the racial stereotypes, because Cheech Marin, of course, is Mexican, and he is Mexican. Let's see. Latin American. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for that, but you saw in the trailer there, he's talking about the parrots, and he's talking about how if they say taco, he say taco. It's just like, yeah, that kind of stuff can get pretty old pretty quickly. But luckily, it does not take up the whole majority of the film. You actually do get invested in Paulie finding Marie and getting back to this woman that really liked him when he was a kid. And when they meet, it's actually very well done. It's a really solidly made film, and it's one that a lot of people don't really talk about anymore. It's not something unlike Mouse Hunt, where Mouse Hunt I think really holds up on a number of levels and makes it a classic film. This isn't quite a classic per se. Not everything about it works, but as far as the movie itself goes, it's perfectly serviceable. It does well enough than what it does, and I would say that I'd watch it again easily. It's a film that I think has gotten better over time. I think it is a solidly made film. I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's a film that not a lot of people know about. It's definitely a very underrated film. I'd say definitely check it out. And so that's Paulie, and let's go to another underrated film. I can't believe I'm even saying this about this movie, but let's talk about a surprisingly good sequel, and that is Major League Back to the Minors.
This season, the funniest guys in baseball
Just take a deep breath and let it rip.
are back
Mr. Buzz got nailed by that missile.
in a completely different league.
Please, send me one real baseball player. And if you can't, you might as well just strike me dead.
They're just 9 players short of a dream team.
You are out of here!
They're not just your normal players.
The hood helps Serrano focus. Hell, all I know is it looks dumb as hell, and he has to be led up to home plate.
They train different.
Could have been called for unnecessary roughness on that one.
They run different.
Lance the Dance scores on what appears to be a double south cow and a triple axel thrown into.
And they catch different.
I like Pop's next stretch. There are 2 kinds of baseball. There's big league, and then there's little league. It smells a little bit like a challenge. You can either play the buzz, you can have the entire world of baseball call you a coward. I'm gonna give you the beating of your life. We'll see about that. Yeah, we will.
These guys are just crazy enough
Yeah, leap like a gazelle.
to try something crazy.
Let's go out there and take a bite out of the big team's ass. Bring that into submission! Once you hit the ball into another zip code. Yes, sir.
Major League. Back to the minors.
So much for beating them in a submission.
Shut up. The diamond has never been so rough.
Get the trainer. Better bring back ice.
I'm sorry, watching Ted McGinley getting hit by that baseball always makes me laugh. It's stupid as hell, but I laughed hard the first time I saw it, and, you know, that's something that I just love watching. I want to watch it again, actually. Can we watch it again?
So much for beating them in a submission.
Shut up. The diamond. The diamond. The diamond. Now's the diamond. The diamond. The diamond.
I know it's stupid. I know it's not a clever gag, but I'm sorry. Just the way they shot that, the way that ball just almost simultaneously hits him right in the face, it's just like, it's one of the stupidest, funniest moments I've ever seen in a sequel, and quite honestly, it was one of the many, many surprises when I saw this movie for the first time, because I did not like Major League 2, and I really did not think I was going to go into Major League Back to the Minors with any enjoyment out of it, and I'm not going to lie, I did really enjoy this more than the second movie. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a great movie, or even a good movie, but compared to the second film, where you had many of the same people in that movie, and that had a PG-13 rating behind it, I mean, that movie should have been dead on arrival, but this is actually a slight improvement over the last one. I mean, it doesn't lower the humor down like they did with Major League 2. It's not a PG-rated sequel, which this series has an R-rated film, a PG-rated film, and a PG-13 rated film. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a franchise that has so many different ratings for so many different movies. But and like I said, it's a tad better and gets the film back to kind of the humor the first film had, even though that was rated R. There are funny moments in there. A lot of it is stupid humor, but the good kind of stupid humor. The kind where it happens, you know that the people who wrote this know it's stupid, and you don't expect it to work, and somehow it does work. And a lot of the jokes in this do fall flat, but when they work, they actually do work. I like the cast in this a lot. Oh, jeez. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. The cast overall is very much okay. Scott Bakula has a decent role in here. Yep, Tim McGinley playing your classic, typical bad guy. Corbin Burnson's back as Roger Dorn. Bob Uecker's back. You also have Dennis Haysbert, a young Walton Goggins as well. It's your typical underdog story. It's a very predictable story, but then again, it's what you'd expect in this series. The fact that I actually found some enjoyment out of this was awe-inspiring to me. It's not a great movie, but it's at least a passable, slightly enjoyable film than the last movie, which is more than I could say about Major League 2. It took me by surprise, and I got value out of this movie that I never thought I was going to get, but the first Major League movie will always be the best film in the series, hands down, and it warrants a lot of rewatchability. Major League 3 is just okay. Go in expecting less, and you actually get a lot of enjoyment out of it. You know what it reminds me of, actually? Free Willy 3 The Rescue from last year, which was a film that it's not a good film, but it certainly beats the crap out of Free Willy 2, and I feel like this movie pretty much is on that same pathway. I mean, what more can you say, man? I found myself really enjoying this movie a lot more than I thought it was. So, on to the next film, Nightwatch.
Martin Bells was a full-time student who needed a nighttime job, but he just accepted the wrong one.
The 17-year-old girl was found dead this evening.
No,
I saw her in the hallway.
he's the prime suspect.
I think someone is trying to frame me.
And in the eyes of a killer, the next victim,
There's someone very dangerous breathing down your neck.
Nightwatch.
So Ewan McGregor plays this law student who's hired as a night watchman at a hospital morgue, and you have this string of gruesome prostitute murders committed by a necrophiliac serial killer, quickly pointing to him as the lead suspect in the investigation carried out by this inspector played by Nick Nolte. And at the same time, Martin is slowly discovering clues to the point to the real perpetrator. There's actually a remake of a Danish film called Nightwatch, but this is directed by Ole Borredal, who also directed that film, and this was actually co-written by Steven Soderbergh. And that kind of intrigued me the first time I saw it. And you have a great cast here: Ewan McGregor, Patricia Arquette, Josh Brolin, Lauren Graham, Nick Nolte, Brad Dourif, John C. Reilly. You see him in the trailer, even though he's uncredited in the actual film. So my interest was definitely piqued coming into this film. I thought maybe this could be something very unique and very interesting, but it's not. It's kind of a letdown, honestly, but it does have elements where the horror aspects do work, and you could definitely tell Soderbergh's writing, where Soderbergh's writing is as you watch the film go along. But the film itself is just pretty bland and mediocre, and doesn't really have an engaging mystery that it should have. And for that, the film kind of suffers because of it. Despite the great performances that they have in here, and a script by co-written by Soderbergh, you would think this would be a whole lot better, but unfortunately, it's not. It's a film that really just doesn't really live up to the hype that it should have. And I've never seen the original film, so I can't really compare the two, but I feel like the original probably did this a lot better. Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say for sure. But I did kind of wish it was better, though. I remember seeing it a while ago, and it's one of those movies where I was just kind of like, yeah, this doesn't really work for me. It's just like, I really was disappointed by this film a lot. So And I was let down by it, especially with the talent on board, both in the writing and the cast overall. You only wish it could be so much better than it actually is. So that's Nightwatch. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one we have here. And that is Christopher Walken's Suicide Kings.
Who's got you? And what do they want? Guys, throws you a death notice. Now we play my way.
Suicide Kings. Rated R.
Of course, this was when the Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and basically Quentin Tarantino was at his prime, so everybody had to copy him, and here's another film that does that. You have a group of youngsters kidnapping a respected mafia figure, and you have Christopher Walken as the mafia figure, Dennis Leary, Henry Thomas, Sean Patrick Flannery, Jay Moore, Jeremy Sisto, Johnny Galecki, Brad Garrett's also in here, Larson Giacomo, Laura Harris, Cliff DeYoung. I mean, there's a good cast involved in here, but kind of like with some of the other movies we looked at on here, big stars doesn't always guarantee a very good film, and it's hard not to look at this and not think of another Reservoir Dogs, like Diet Reservoir Dogs. I mean, it's literally almost for that. Just replace the cop with a mafia boss. But Christopher Walken was pretty good in it, though, so I'll give him that. He was the one person who was carrying the load for this film. But we've seen this done before over and over again, and you expect a whole lot more with the talent that they have on here, and a story that could be something if you actually took the time to not copy somebody else's material, but I didn't get that from this movie. It's kind of a forgettable film. As much as Christopher Walken really carries the film, it's not worth it in the end. So let's move on to the next movie, and that is Sour Grapes.
We on for this weekend?
Atlantic City?
I don't know. It's going to be great. We drive down, we gamble, and you get the whole night for your hotel sex. Yeah. How you going to pass up a chance for hotel sex?
Boy, am I tapped out.
You got 2 quarters, I'm out.
Here, go crazy. Oh! It's me! Yeah! It's me! It's me! It's me! I'm rich!
I just won $436,000 and 50 cents.
I don't believe it!
Give me my quarters.
You think he should give you money?
You should give me half the money. I was the one playing the machine.
Don't you give him a penny.
You'd be crazy if you do.
Why should I give him money from my machine?
And that's the entire movie. God, I wish I was kidding, but that's literally the entire movie. I mean, this is basically another version of the dilemma where one simple thing could easily wrap this up in like 10 minutes after it happens, but then we wouldn't have a movie. And yeah, even Larry David does not like this movie. You forget that Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld, wrote and directed this movie. This was supposed to be his big jump into Hollywood after leaving Seinfeld after the previous season, not the last season, but the season before that. But even Larry David himself has said that he is not like this movie. In fact, he has a poster for the set that was put up in his office while he was working on the first episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. He had that poster removed, and he got sick and tired of looking at it after one show. In a later episode, the character tells his wife on the show, on Curb Your Enthusiasm, to stop lending people the film, and says he doesn't believe a friend who claims to have enjoyed that movie, saying she was just trying to be polite. So that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this movie. If the guy who wrote and directed it is telling you that, yeah, don't avoid this movie like the plague, I think that you need to avoid this movie. And like I said, it's a story that could easily be resolved within 10-20 minutes after it happens. There's no reason to make a movie off of this, and I could not believe that this movie was as bad as it is. And the funny thing is, when I was actually getting the footage here, I completely forgot I had forgotten the trailer for this. So when I went back to look at the trailer again, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, now I remember how much I didn't like this movie. This is a film that is just, it's a one-note premise. It has nothing to gain from it. It has nothing worth watching. It's a massive misfire on so many levels. You can see why Larry David hated this movie so much. I mean, it's unbearable. It's an unbearable comedy to watch. It's one of the most blandest, boring things I've ever seen in my life, and it doesn't result to anything. The characters don't evolve. The characters don't get any better. And when it's all said and done, it's like the movie never even happened at the end. Like, they literally pull a Deus Ex Machina on you, And I mean, what more do I gotta say about it, man? This is a terrible, terrible movie. Let's move on here. We're already on a streak of disappointing fare. Let's see if that continues with our next film, Chinese Box, from Wayne Wang. Yep, another disappointment. This is the story of Hong Kong from New Year's Day to June 30th, 1997, when the British left the colony and turned it over to the People's Republic of China. And you have 9 different stories that you're following on very different levels. One of them includes Jeremy Irons and Gong Li. And there's all these different stories going on here, and you really do not give a crap about any of these stories whatsoever. Like, the Joy Luck Club works even though it has those stories that are all over the place, and you have all these different characters, but you still admire these characters. This is kind of the same problem that something like Blue in the Face had, the last movie this guy directed. An ambitious project, but just a botched delivery. And in this film here, you definitely get a sense that the film is not even trying all that much. I mean, Irons and Gong Li are trying their best to hold it together, but even then, you still have all these different storylines that just really aren't coming together as well as you want them to. And the film just ends up being another massive misfire. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that one. Nothing else more to say about that. Chinese Box, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Homegrown.
TriStar Pictures presents
You guys are breathing too deep.
Academy Award winner Billy Bob Thornton, Hank Azaria, Kelly Lynch, John Bon Jovi, Ryan Phillip, Judge Reinhold, John Tenney, Ted Danson, with John Lithgow and Jamie Lee Curtis.
I just think we should stop and think about this.
I have thought about it, and I agree with myself. What do you mean?
Homegrown.
You know, I'm starting to get the feeling that a lot of these movies were supposed to come out in January and February, and then Titanic came around, and they said, oh God, we don't want to be anywhere near these. Put these terrible movies in April and May. Hopefully people will be done with that movie by then, because a lot of these movies that we talked about a lot of movies the last couple of weeks, and most of them, there are a lot more bad movies than there are good movies. And here's another disappointment. You have a small fry marijuana harvesters in Northern California try to keep their business running, negotiating this big sale and keeping it secret. But when silent partners, the mafia, the police, and other meddlers crash the party, they begin to realize they are in over their heads. And you see a cast that includes a ton of talented people: Billy Bob Thornton, Hank Azaria, Kelly Lynch, John Bon Jovi, Ryan Phillippe, John Lithgow, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ted Danson, Judge Reinhold, Jake Gyllenhaal, Steve Carell is an uncredited cameo here. There's just way too much going on in this movie to really keep you invested in what the hell's going on. And the movie suffers because of it. I mean, there's so much potential that could be done here. This is a good director, Stephen Gyllenhaal, whose last couple movies, they did Dangerous Woman, Losing Isaiah. He did stuff like The Patron Saint of Lies. I mean, this is a good director, but most of his movies are pretty bland or forgettable. And this is another one of those movies that is pretty bland and forgettable. It's a film that wants to be something interesting, wants to be something that's very unique, and just can't find that. It can't find that certain edge to just go that level to make it something different and stand out. And it kind of suffers because of it. It's a film that should be a lot better than it actually is, and it's just not. So we've had a lot of disappointments this week. Can we turn it around with a Woody Allen documentary? Let's see if we can do that with Wild Man Blues.
I love it. Don't think for a moment that you are what you are by yourself. You had never.
So the documentary takes a look at Allen's love of early 20th century New Orleans music by preserving performances on the 1996 tour in Europe by his New Orleans Jazz Band, which I had no idea he had a New Orleans Jazz Band, quite honestly, but he's been playing the clarinet with the band for over 25 years, and now here's the movie that pretty much shows you pretty much that. And most notable, besides the jazz band in this is also the first movie that is the first major public showcase for Allen's relationship with Soon Yi, which, of course, I don't need to tell you about that story if you've already heard about that story, but it's a pretty good documentary. I was actually really surprised. I had no idea that Woody Allen was that kind of a guy that would get so much invested into New Orleans jazz, and he had this band that he's had for so many years, and it's just kind of like, that's pretty cool. That's something pretty interesting that I never knew about this guy, and it made for a pretty interesting little documentary that's very different from what we're used to seeing from a typical Woody Allen scripted film, but here you have this movie directed by Barbara Koppel, who's a notable documentary filmmaker, and it's a really cool idea. It's a really interesting film, and the music is very, very good. This is a movie that could easily get you invested in New Orleans jazz music. Like, for me, my first exposure to New Orleans jazz was actually The Princess and the Frog, but if I'd seen this first, I would have definitely gotten into it a little bit more, because stuff like this, and Treme as well, like, stuff like that really piques my interest. It made me want to get into this stuff a little bit more. And I think the film does a very good job at handling that in this case. It's nice seeing a different kind of Woody Allen in this film. And it's actually a pretty good documentary. I would definitely recommend checking it out. So we finally got a really solid, good film. Can we wrap the weekend off with a good note here? Let's see what 24/7 has to offer us.
Every morning you have another chance, but how often do you seize that day with your own hands?
I don't know, because I've never seen this movie. It was kind of pointless there, but let's talk about this movie. You have a typical English working class town, and the juveniles have nothing more to do than hang around at gigs, and you have this motivated man played by Bob Hoskins with the same kind of youth experience trying to get these young people off the street and into doing something they can believe in, boxing. And he opens up a training facility, which is accepted gratefully by them, and the gangs merge together into a group of friends. Bob Hoskins' character organizes a public fight to them to prove what they have learned. A training camp with hiking tours into the mountains of Wales forges the group into a tightly knit club society, and when the day of the fight draws closer, they get more and more excited. And like I said, I haven't seen the film. I don't really know too much about this director, Shane Meadows, even though he did stuff like the This Is England series, as well as his first film, Small Time. But I don't know. I've heard I'm looking on here. It's got some pretty decent reviews, and Bob Hoskins usually does not turn in a really bad performance. Even in something as bad as something like Super Mario Brothers, he will put in a good performance. But as far as this film goes, I don't really know too much about it. I don't know if it's any good or not, but my interest is kind of piqued. Apparently, James Corden's also in there too. I guess this is one of his earliest film roles in here, playing Tonka. So might be cool to see an early James Corden before everyone hated him. Just saying, but yeah, that's pretty much all I know about this one. So that's 24/7. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and we'll wrap April up on the next episode. And another great slate of movies. I'm of course lying to you, because looking at the slate of films that we have to look at, a lot of these movies are pretty forgettable or just plain bad. We have The Big Hit, we have the infamous Tarzan and the Lost City, we have Gwyneth Paltrow in Sliding Doors, Robert Downey Jr. and Heather Graham in Two Guys and a Girl, which probably will be the best movie that we'll look at next time, but we also have In God's Hands and Deja Vu. So 6 movies to look at next time around, and that's going to be on Monday, because of course I'm going to be working Still CityCon weekend, so there will not be a new episode of Time About the Movies coming up on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So the next one will be on Monday. And you can still check out some of the other episodes here, which, by the way, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on this channel. And also, as always, don't forget to hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode if you liked what you saw. And with that said, I am off, so the next time you see me will be in some movie stop videos centering around the Still CityCon, so those will be released Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I hope you will enjoy those, and I hope to see you next time for another video. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, take care.